Order.
Doing that.
Please stand for a silent reflection and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Campion? Absent. Mrs. King?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Schuler?
Here.
Mr. Tinkin?
Here.
Mr. Borbeck?
Here.
Mayor Mechanical?
Here. Pursuant to the requirements of the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted on the Borough website, and on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Published as a legal notice in the Co-Star newspaper, and mailed to those requesting notice and providing payment in accordance with borough policy. Need a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of Resolution R 2015-31, and I'd like to move Resolution R 2015-29 to next meeting. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Jim, I think we have to take these minutes individually.
Yes.
We need approval of the minutes. The first one will be March 12th, 2012, the executive session. We need a motion and a second.
Make that motion.
Second it.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
That was, I thought you said March 12th, right?
March 12th, 2012.
Oh, 2012. Oh, I didn't know this was, I wasn't there. That was
Wait,
information.
what? That's part of my
So you
settlement,
will
is to get this stuff
Yes.
done.
abstain.
I just did.
Before I even worked here.
After I voted yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. May 11th, let me go down, yeah, sorry, May 14th, 2012, the executive session and regular session. May 14th.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Approve the minutes for May 29th, 2012. This is the regular session.
Make that motion.
Second it.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. May 11th, 2015, executive session. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions? May 11th.
I was actually.
Oh, you're out.
Now, yeah, that was his issue.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Thank you. May 26th, 2015, the executive session.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. June 8th, 2015, the executive session. Need a motion and a second.
Motion I'll make.
I'll second.
Do we have any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
I have to abstain.
Mr. Borbeck?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And June 22nd, 2015, the executive and regular session. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
These executive only.
The regular is correct.
All
I was here. All right, thanks. Forgive me. I'm good.
Roll call, please.
Okay.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Abstain?
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Abstain.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Your motion passes.
Thank you. Okay. Tonight, on the agenda, we have a presentation from Ms. Donna Hamilton from Fleet Consultant Bank Corporation. She's going to give a little presentation on leasing municipal vehicles. You may step forward.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, Mayor Mechanico, Council President King. Raise that a little bit? That's okay. Sorry. Council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Donna Hamilton. I'm a fleet consultant for the Bancorp Bank in their leasing and fleet management division. Okay. I want to thank you for inviting me to the meeting and to provide some information on municipal leasing. Leasing can give you financial benefits as you work through budgetary issues and the need to replace vehicles and equipment. We all know everybody's in that same boat. So a little background about the bank. The bank is a federally regulated institution established in the year 2000. We've been publicly traded since 2005. We are a financial services to corporate members. We don't have branch banking out there, so we provide corporate services around the world, actually. We have offices in the country and around the world. We're a GSA member, and we're one of the few banks in the country that is a bank and a leasing company. So that gives us access to all the funds. We are the funds, so we can work with municipalities. It's a lot of what we do. We lease right on up to the federal government. In fact, right now we lease for NCIS, the real NCIS, not the TV show. So they're part of our clients. My background, I'm born and raised in Monmouth County. I live in Ocean County currently over 30 years. I've been in banking 35 years. And my first 15 years was right here in Spring Lake Heights at the Central Jersey Bank in 71. First 15 years, now the Mass One Savings. So I want to just start with some basics about leasing because there may be a lot of misconceptions out there. Some of you may be familiar with vehicle leasing from the consumer retail side. And what you would know about that is it's limited mileage, there's fees for wear and tear, down payments. That is not municipal leasing, it's completely different. Municipal leasing is an open-end lease agreement, okay, where you have ownership in that asset, okay? It basically allows you to stretch your funds over a certain amount of term. You pick the term 12 to 60 months. So it's an open-end agreement. At the end of the lease term, you own the asset for $1. It's not like the regular consumer lease where they're just using it for time and you take it back and they're going to hit it with all these fees. There are no down payments required. There's no hits for wear and tear. There's no mileage restrictions. We understand what you need. It's just the fact of using those funds wisely. Okay? Any upfits, any equipment that you need on those vehicles, those can also be rolled into the lease. So again, no money needed up front. Okay? If you wanted extended warranties on these vehicles, you could roll that into the lease as well, because we all know maintenance costs can really get out of hand. So lease terms are anywhere from 12 to 60 months. We can go longer terms on certain vehicles. If you're looking at a new fire truck, we know the exorbitant cost of them. We can offer longer terms on that. Again, we are the bank, it is our fund, so we can do 7 to 10 years on those. Again, $1 buyout, you own the vehicle, you own the equipment at lease end. Okay? We offer flexible payment terms, monthly up to annual. We know that typically municipalities want to bill annually. We can do that. We can do it in advance, in arrears. We understand the needs of the municipalities. We have an appropriation out clause in our agreement, which is huge. Okay, so you enter into a lease agreement, and then 4 years down the line, budgetary issues come up, and you're like, you can't do this anymore. There's no prepayment penalties. You pay up the lease, and you're out of it. Okay. We have access to all the manufacturers. It is non-biased information. You know, if Ford Credit was standing here, they would just be offering you Fords. We have access to all the manufacturers. Okay. So whatever you may need, whether it's police vehicles, marked, unmarked, undercover, DPW, garbage trucks, street sweepers, bucket trucks, fire department, rescue. We have access to all types of vehicles that you would need. Partnering with us means you're going to work with us as far as any of your leasing and fleet management needs. Any questions so far? I wanted to do like a sample of numbers just so you kind of get an idea if that works.
That's what my questions are, so yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
So let's talk about like a Chevy Caprice, a police marked vehicle. It's about $26,000 under the state contract. A lot of these vehicles are under the state contract. We are them under the contract. Let's say you added up fits. Let's say it comes to $35,000. It's probably a little low, but we'll use that number for the example. So a marked police vehicle, brand new, $35,000. So what would you do? You would take your $35,000 and buy the vehicle. Okay. If you lease that vehicle for 36 months, okay, the annual cost on that lease would be about $12,696. So in essence, you could almost lease 3 vehicles for the price of buying one. Okay? At the end of the 36 months, you own the vehicle. And everything is titled in the name of the borough, not like your consumer lease where it's titled in the name of the lender. It is titled in the name of the borough. Okay? If you did a 48-month lease, you could virtually lease 4 vehicles in place of that. That would be about $9,800 a year per vehicle. So times 4 would be around $39,000. So, you know, instead of buying one for $35,000, you could lease 4 for 4 years. Okay? It works better the longer term, but a lot of towns don't like to do longer term. Most of our clients typically run 36 to 48 months. Again, it's your choice. Okay? Any questions on the numbers as far as that?
Yeah, what is the 12,696? What is the percentage on that? Like above what the actual cost of the vehicle is?
Well, the monthly payment would be $1,058 on the $35,000 for 36 months. Okay. There's not an interest rate on an open-end lease. An open-end lease is actually like a rental agreement. Okay, so there's a money factor number, and typically ours run 4.25 to 5.25. And we all know towns hate to borrow money. We know that. But everybody's faced with the unique problem of how do we replace equipment and vehicles.
It seemed like, I mean, 12,696 per year.
That's for
more
3
than
vehicles.
5%, right? And you said it was about 4.5%. Because that over, it would add up to 35,000, right? 696 is 5%.
Right. And it's,
So it's more like 6 or 7%.
well, it's not 6%, but again,
Okay.
you know, I'm using generalized numbers and it's, you know.
I'm just trying to, I mean, I understand
I'm not going to
the
give you the
value of
lowest
being
cost
able
right off the
to.
bat, you know.
I might be wrong, but it looks like it might be like 38 change for 3 years instead of 36.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
And at the end, we basically bought the car, right?
Yes. So basically, on that example, it's about $85 a month to lease the vehicle over the 3-year term. Yes, and at the end, you own the vehicle.
Is this affected by interest rates at all?
As far as,
Well, I mean, like, let's say we, a few years down the road, interest rates are higher, do we return pretty much
well, we wouldn't change any agreements that we have.
current
So you
agreements?
strike the term in the beginning of the lease and it's.
Oh, yeah,
in effect of
absolutely.
the
You
whole
know,
term
you
of
sign
lease.
the master agreement, and then there's schedules for each of the vehicles, and that is it. If the rates went crazy, we're not going to say, oh, sorry, you know, we gave you a low rate. No, no.
Just
It's
asking.
for, yeah, no, it's perfectly fine.
What's GSA?
GSA is the Government the Services Administration. It's part of the federal government, so the GSA. So we are a part of that as well, which it doesn't do a lot for a local town because you can't purchase under GSA, but it's obviously a credibility.
When you mentioned it, so I.
Yeah, because from a credibility standpoint, obviously it's important that you know who you're doing business with, you know. You know, there's a lot of private companies out there, but we are a bank, and that's, I think, important. So that was, but even if you just leased one vehicle, I know, you know, it's not like, well, we're going to get all these vehicles. You know, just purchasing one and leasing one, you can see the value of that, of spreading those dollars over. There's also additional considerations. You talk about maintenance and fuel costs. I mean, you probably have some Crown Vics. Most police departments still do, and some towns do. You talk about maintenance costs. You talk about fuel inefficiencies. So you save a lot of that vehicle under warranty.
Who does the maintenance?
Well, you can, first of all, if it's under warranty, it would be handled by whatever dealer you choose, okay, for vehicles under warranty. Obviously, once it's out of warranty, we have outlets to maintenance I imagine you as a town handle your
Yeah,
own.
we do, I just was just
Yeah,
asking.
but you could take an extended warranty, and we could roll that into the lease as well. Like we go and, if other towns do ask for that, they want the police vehicles, they want extended warranties, they want to take them out to 100,000 miles. We all know there's a lot of miles, and the worst thing on the vehicles is the idle, more so than anything, you know. Okay. And then safety, of course, is the big issue, especially with police and fire, that vehicles are up to date. I mean, what gets added to a vehicle? You know, some of these vehicles have 2 batteries now, and how many times you can retrofit it down there? Okay. Again, we have access to all the vehicles, so in all manufacturers, so if you need a street sweeper, garbage truck, all of that, it would be all done on a $1 buyout. Leasing is not common up in the Northeast because, again, nobody ever wants to borrow money. In the old days, the bond rates were really low, interest rates were high, it was a no, you know, you just didn't do it. Now that's kind of shifting another way, but we're all facing the same thing that everybody is. Southeast, that's all they do is lease. Undercover, we can do those with a protected third party. If you have an undercover program, we can do that as well. Some of the municipalities like to do those on closed-end leases because they don't want to retain those. It's up to you. We can help you dispose of older vehicles. There's a lot of outlets of auctions. So if you have other vehicles that you're like, what do we do with them? We'll get like, you know, $25 for 3 outlets for that as well. I brought additional information if you wanted to review it. Any questions?
Yeah, do you have any local references? Is there any other like municipalities in the area that are utilizing?
We could get them for you, absolutely. Yeah, I know there's at least half a dozen in the state that we deal with, so I could certainly get references for you.
Do you have any idea, Donna, what most of the towns do? How long do they keep their vehicles? Do they turn them in like at the end of a couple of years? Do they keep an ongoing thing?
It really depends. I mean, most of them, you know, they lease. They do lease for typically 36 to 48 months, and then they just own the vehicle at the end. We can also take back a police vehicle. Remove the light bars, plug up the holes, and we will take it to auction if you didn't want to keep it. We have that ability to do that as well. So it just really depends on your financial plans and what you want to do. I mean, obviously, the best case scenario is to keep leasing vehicles so they're under warranty, you're saving the maintenance costs, but that's just not always feasible. A lot of the municipalities use it to get them over the hump of needing vehicles and not having the funds to do it. So, I mean, we're still recovering from Sandy.
And it seems to me that, I mean, if you were faced with either bonding for these vehicles or leasing, right now, bonding would be a slightly better financial deal, but that leasing is a lot more flexible. I mean, I think
Well, bonding for us is because we have vehicles that are almost 20 years old.
what?
So we get
Well, I'm just saying, just given the example that we had,
keep
you
vehicles
had
for a long time.
bond for $35,000 to buy one vehicle, you wouldn't.
Right, if you don't pay for them.
The percentage rate that you would pay on the bond is less than the uptick on the lease of the vehicle. That being said, you get a lot more flexibility because you could do it vehicle by vehicle, because you would never bond for one vehicle, you'd have to bond for 20 vehicles.
But if you budgeted every year for vehicles
No,
that you should, that's the ultimate savings.
That would be the ultimate way to do it, yeah. I'm just trying to look at both sides of this.
Donna, do you have...
There is an article in the packet that talks about leasing, and not just for the private sector, and I do believe there's a section here that compares it to the manufacturer bonding and such. So, you know, it's not the end all for everything. It's virtually an option to help. That's what it is.
You're just a little athletic. Got it.
Donna, do you have any references, I know Tom just asked, do you have any references in New Jersey with municipalities who have, you know, they've gone through one agreement and now they're on their second agreement?
I know I can check that as well. I know we
Okay, so when you...
multiple, yeah, we're not talking about one-time users.
Okay, yeah, no, when you provide us with that list,
History
could you kind of highlight which ones are multiple contracts?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I can get that for you.
Anything else?
Can I wasn't at the last meeting, so what, and I didn't see any information about this, what precipitated this presentation? Was there a discussion previously?
No,
No, I ran into Donna at a function, and she and I got talking about various borough equipment, and she said that she would be willing to come to a meeting and address us, and so therefore, that's how she got here.
Okay. Thank you. No, I thought maybe there was a discussion in the previous meeting that I missed on this. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
I'll leave
Delete
information.
those steps. Yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
I'm doing the wrong job.
We have a scheduled public hearing for ordinance 2015-5. That's the salary and wage for public employees for the year 2015. If you have a for or against, or would you like to step anything to say on ordinance 2015-5? Just step forward, give your name and address.
Yeah, just before you go into the public, if I may, just by way of background, this ordinance implements the Public Works Collective Bargaining Agreement that was the subject of negotiations starting last October. The previous Public Works Agreement expired 12/31 of last year. At our last regular meeting, the contract was authorized to be executed, has been signed by both parties. The Spring Lake Heights Employees Association on behalf of the Public Works employees. Specifically, as I mentioned, negotiations commenced last October and continued through until the middle part of last month. This ordinance implements the salaries that were part of those negotiations. The negotiations for the successor agreement covered a number of areas. The entire contract was rewritten, language changes to reflect a change in our management structure, the creation or the replacement of what previously had been the Public Works Superintendent has now been replaced with the Public Works Director. The language throughout the contract has been changed to reflect that. Additionally, there was a restructuring of a number of our most senior employee positions. Previously, in anticipation of turnover in the Public Works Department, part of these negotiations included the creation of an additional supervisory position, specifically titled Assistant Foreman, and provided a salary range for that position. Likewise, the three senior positions in Public Works, mechanic, licensed water operator, and foreman, those salaries have been renegotiated, and we have a starting salary that is much lower than the current salary for those employees, again, in anticipation of what will be some changeover and turnover in employees as retirements happen. There were no expansion of the benefits in terms of either health care benefits, longevity, or any paid time off as part of this negotiation. This is a 3-year contract. It covers the current year, 2015, as well as the 2016 and 2017 calendar years. In each of these years, there was a 2% increase that has been applied for existing employees. And the other significant change to the contract is that the laborer scale, which previously had a 6-step salary guide, has been expanded to provide a 7-step salary guide, with the starting salary of $30,000 and the maximum salary of $50,000 remaining unchanged during the course of the 3-year contract. So in addition to the incremental changes and savings year to year, the expansion of the salary guide from the 6 steps to the 7 steps also means that an employee, a newly hired employee in Public Works, with the new starting salary of $30,000, will not reach the maximum salary until after the 7th year. So that also has about a 4.5% to 5% savings over the life of that new employee from the time they start until the time they reach the maximum step. I think that covers all of the individual components that were the subject of the negotiations.
We thank, by the way, Mr. Delaney was our negotiator in the public works. Well, thank you for that, Chair.
And Chair, I think you should have there's no longevity for new people either.
That's correct.
That's an important point.
That is, the longevity had previously been eliminated for new hires after, I believe it was 2009. We also, by virtue of this agreement, will be phasing out longevity for newly hired employees or newly promoted employees. Thank you for reminding me of that one.
Thank you for that, Chair. If you would like to speak on this order, just step forward and give your name and address.
Kathleen Griffin, 564 Atlantic Avenue. So what was the percentage of salary increase that everybody got?
In general, it's a 2% increase year to year.
Okay, and that's the licensed operator and those folks as well?
That's correct. The only exception to that is employees that were hired under the existing scale. There are stepped guide increases, but there was no percentage increase applied to those.
Okay. And I see too, there's now an option for if a midweek holiday can be exchanged for another paid day. So does that mean if Christmas falls on Wednesday, somebody can elect to work on Christmas Day and take a day off during the year?
No. The language specifically applies to midweek holidays, and it would have to be at the agreement of both the borough and the collective bargaining unit. Most recently, we've had situations, and one that comes to mind is when Veterans Day falls on a Wednesday. It means we would be open Monday, Tuesday, close Wednesday, reopen on, with the agreement of both the borough, at the borough's option, with the agreement of the employee union. The borough may want to, and I think we've done this in the past on occasion, exchange that paid holiday, for instance, the day after Christmas. I believe last year Christmas fell on a Thursday, so we were able to make a Thursday-Friday holiday weekend.
Okay, and then the only other question I have is Article 12 has a job description. Where are these? The job descriptions?
They're all
not in the code. Yeah.
They're all fine.
Because, and Gavin, maybe you're going to take care of this with recodification. There are no public works job descriptions in the code, so that has to, you can't have a job in a government without it being by ordinance, created by ordinance. So maybe that's part of the update for codification. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kath. Anyone? Seeing no hands, I'd like to close this. Motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So we move ahead and adopt this? Yes. Need a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2015-05?
Make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this point in the meeting, you may step forward and speak on any agenda item you'd like. Just give your name and address. You may make a comment on any agenda item. John, step. Sorry, John.
Yep.
He's got props.
I have props. I have props for this. This is a little prop presentation here. I have a rate and a award. And my name is John Tangeman from 564 Atlantic Avenue. And what I wanted to speak about was the upcoming discussion for recommendations from the planning board to change the setback of accessory buildings from 5 feet to 2 feet. Accessory buildings, and this is, I think Mr. May is going to present this next, but I didn't know if I'd get a chance to say it later, so I want to say this now. presently, we're talking about like a garage and a shed at the back of your property. And presently, the setback is 5 feet. The planning board wants to change it to 2 feet. Now, a little history about this. Several years ago, the setback was 10 feet. And it was changed to 5 feet to narrow it down so that people didn't store boats and things behind their garage and their shed. So that's an issue that may come up now, but 5 feet, you're not going to be able to really put a large boat behind your house if it's 5 feet as it presently is. But that was a problem when it was 10 feet. Now, why do so I want to speak in opposition to the changing it to 2 feet, and I'd like to keep it at 5 for the following reasons. This is 2 feet. Okay, that's 2 feet. So you're going to have your building here, your garage or your shed here, and you're going to have 2 feet, and then you're probably going to have a fence, and then the other person on the other side can have 2 feet, and then have their garage and their shed there. Okay, so this is what you're going to have between your building and your fence. This is a typical rake purchased at Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those things. And if you notice, it's almost impossible to even get in there to do any cleaning up with such a narrow setback in the back. Also, you might say, well, nobody uses the rake anyway. You get a landscaper to come, he has a backpack on, he blows everything away. Well, this is 2 feet, this is me, and there are a lot of people that are smaller than me, but there are a lot of people that are larger than me, and I would have a hard time with a backpack and a gasoline motor on my back, swinging around trying to get into that space. So I really think 2 feet is much too narrow. Also, most importantly, I don't know if anybody's talked to the fire department about making it 2 feet. Because think about it, you have 2 feet and a fence, and your garage goes on fire, somebody's getting back there, potentially get behind there. Is that big enough? And I really think before you do anything about changing it, you really need to speak to the fire department and get their recommendations on it. Just in summary, I don't see any real reason that it should be changed to 2 feet. If you're afraid of people storing things behind it, I think you have the right to store some things behind your garage. What's wrong if you have some rakes and some garden equipment behind the garage? Certainly not a large boat, but that's taken care of already. 5 feet, you're not going to be able to fit a boat behind your garage. I would like you to consider not changing that ordinance and keeping it at 5 feet. There doesn't seem, I'm also on the Board of Adjustment, and nobody has come to us asking, please give us an exemption so we can make it to 2 feet in back of our garage. It's never come up. It's not even an issue. But for some reason, the planning board decided to throw this in with a number of other things that Mr. May will discuss. And I would respectfully ask that you just let it stay at 5 feet. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen Griffin, 564 Atlantic Avenue. I'm on the planning board, and I disagree with this. I would also keep it as 5 feet, because from an environmental standpoint, as John pointed out, you're going to get leaves and trash that are going to blow back there. Nobody's going to be able to get into a narrow space to clean it out. You're going to get vermin living in there. It's going to be a fire hazard, and it's going to be a health hazard. And, you know, I don't have a problem if somebody puts new behind their shed or their garage. I don't know why my garage was built in 1961, and it's got a 5-foot setback, and, you know, we have some rakes back there or whatever, but it's perfectly fine, and you can get through 5 feet and clean it, you know, and not let leaves and things build up in there. And I don't see the point in why you would want to do this. Also, our most recent master plan reexamination report under housing very clearly states that one of the goals of the borough should be maintaining the existing character of our neighborhoods should be ensured through the development of additional zoning controls on the height, setback, and bulk of homes. Large homes that are out of scale with the neighborhood should be discouraged. So I think if you move this to 2 feet, everybody's going to say, great, 2 feet, I can make a bigger house and put it on there, and it's in conflict with the master plan. So I'm opposed to this. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? On agenda item. Seeing no hands, need a motion to close the agenda item?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Now, we do have a discussion, and Mr. Mayor, our engineer, will give the planning board recommendations. And Joe, if you don't mind, please,
Yes,
you
Mayor
can
and
answer.
Council, there's 3 items on this letter dated June 15th for your consideration. The planning board has spent a few meetings discussing these items, and at the conclusion of those meetings, recommended a letter be put to the mayor and council. The first item is called waiver of site plan. This is a new ordinance, Mayor, and it's to allow the planning board the ability to review an application, determine if a full site plan review is required. We have cases where you'll have an application get site plan approval, and during construction or even after construction, they want to modify a fence or before they even build the accessory structure or a structure on the site, they want to move it a foot or 2. It's within, it's not in the setback.
Something very minor.
Very minor, but technically you can't, I don't have the authority as zoning officer to do that, and put the burden on the applicant to fill out a full-fledged application is not perhaps the best way to go. And working with our board attorney, who is here tonight in the audience, who came he had to answer any questions. This is a very good ordinance for the town to have the ability to take a look at this stuff, quickly remedy it. And also, the fee may seem exorbitant, but compared to filling out a full site plan application with notice and those sort of things, it may be something the board council should consider.
So what's the process now that the occupant would fill out a full site plan?
Yeah.
Okay, and that would undergo some kind of a review, right?
It would be noticed, attorneys are required.
Okay.
More fees.
More fees.
Yeah, this is about relieving the burden.
I passed a sample application.
But doesn't that process also act as some kind of quality control? Because shouldn't your neighbor be notified if you're moving a foot or 2 feet closer to the line?
Well, we're not saying that, as our sample application would say, we would notice adjoining property. Let's say, for example, if you want to change the sign, and you said, okay, my sign is going to be, the exit sign is going to be here. And then after they'll say, well, we want to put the exit on the other side of the driveway. It seems like a minor change, but there may be reasons for it. It gives an ability for the board to have a look at it without doing a full-fledged site plan review on the application. It's for items where unforeseen conditions, the dumpster pad is here and has certain shrubs on it. They want to change the shrubs. Or plan, your approval falls for these shrubs and this type of fence. Technically, you can't change that fence or those shrubs. And sometimes there's the minimus changes that.
So is there some place where these limits are kind of listed, like what constitutes a small change versus a large
Any
change?
parking change, of course, would require any building location, something like that require an amended site plan approval, but something that they come to the zoning officer and say, well, I want to put an apple tree instead of a pear tree here because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, it says this is what you got to do. And then they, well, my landscaper said this may be the best fit. We're looking into this. There's a sewer line here. We have to dig up the sewer line.
So the process under this, the applicant would still go back to the planning board?
Yes, yes. The board still is the ultimate
Okay.
decision maker, but it's more of an expedited review of the application.
Okay.
And it puts a little less onus on the applicant, but at the same time, the board makes the decision.
Okay. And that they make the decision currently as well?
Yes. So that's the first consideration for the mayor and council. The second one was accessory buildings. The presentations, they all have merit that Mr. Tangent and Mr. Scriven gave regarding their reasons. There are some other reasons which I think that they may not hear as much as I hear as a zoning officer. Most folks that build a house, our driveway all says 2 feet. So when we build a house in town, the driveway is set 2 feet off the property line. Your wife drives in the backyard, and then they can't navigate into the garage, because the garage is 5 feet.
I don't know.
You know, and it's a little bit difficult. With regard to the 5-foot setback for fire, a fireman is not going to go next to a building, whether or not it's 2 feet or 10 feet.
Could we change, am I allowed to ask questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, is the problem the driveway 2-foot requirement? Or would it be better to move the driveway requirement than move the building?
Well, the fact of the matter is, the Borough Spring Heights lots, on the average, are 50 to 75 feet wide.
Right.
They're not Spring Lake lots.
Mhm.
So we have 10-foot setbacks for a building. So if we have 2-foot setback for a driveway, at least we have an 8-foot wide driveway, which in most cases, I mean, is too thin to begin with. So if you make it any bigger, you will not be able to have the ability to have the driveways to the rear yard at all. So that's pretty, I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
Okay.
There is a consideration, there is a lot of trash behind these things. We talked about 2 foot as being enough area for most people to maintain, most people to get in that area. This was, just a recommendation. You guys can decide how you want to go, if you want a letter from the fire department.
I mean, when I think of 2 feet, I think of sections of other towns close by where, things look tight with 2-foot setbacks.
One thing I want to make a comment about, whether or not it was 2 feet or 5 feet away, that does not impact the size of the structure on the house. Because our ordinance still has.
Right, we have a lot coverage.
On building coverage, so I wasn't quite sure.
These are for sheds.
No, I understand. No, detached garages too.
What the relation to the master plan. It doesn't-
No, I understood that. I understood that.
And you're up to the curves and stuff?
I didn't get to that yet.
I'll wait for you.
Just so we're clear, we're also talking sheds too. Majority of people in town, since I've been here zoning officer, come and say, well, my neighbor's shed's in the corner, my shed's in the corner. We all put all 4 of our sheds in the corner. Technically not allowed to be there. So if that's another consideration, if you don't want to make the garage 2 feet, the shed might be a consideration, because having a shed that's 10 by 10, 5 feet over the property line, a lot of people that aren't at this meeting, but come to the Borough Hall every day, complain about that. So that's the other consideration, because most people put their shed.
I think most of the sheds are already 2 or 3.
Sure, you can cut out a separate ordinance for sheds.
Yeah, but I mean, my concern was if we can get a letter from the fire department or say, if we can prove there's no safety concerns, then, what people do on their own property, I think, is their property. I mean, that's my opinion, as long as it's safe. But if we really are concerned that, 2 garages next to each other that close would be unsafe, then I deal with sheds. I think they're smaller in general, right? The ordinance spells out the difference between a shed and a garage already.
Is this all packaged into one ordinance?
You can make
No, it's not an ordinance at all.
I can do whatever you folks want. If you want to get a letter, if you want to amend this, have it rewritten to just only include sheds, we can look at that. We can take it back to the planning board and have them review it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand the need for this 2-foot setback. Is the need that great to do this? I'm not asking you, Joe. I'm just making
I'm just trying to explain
statement.
what I know, that I've seen town.
Because it does, over time, it changes the character of the town in the way things look. Like I said, there's towns around here that have these kinds of setbacks, and it looks very tight. It's a different type of town.
Well, I don't have an issue with the next paragraph I was worried about.
Anybody have any questions on it?
Sorry, Joe. Sorry.
That's what we're here for. We're here to discuss it and make, that's the reason we're here.
I won't ask any questions on the next one. I'll let Tom do that.
You covered that one pretty well.
Exhausted it. Curb cuts and driveway. Currently, our ordinance allows a 20-foot wide driveway and only a 16-foot wide apron, which is contrary to most access to driveways where when people back out. Majority of driveways end up revolving to 20 feet. In most cases, however, there has been some complaints about getting two vehicles in, it gets tight at the end of the driveway. So it was requested that this be looked at from some resident that came through the zoning laws. I brought this to the planning board, and it was a recommendation that we make it, the driveway open, the same as driveway width. If you allow them a 20-foot wide driveway, a 20-foot wide driveway open.
Yeah, I'm just always going to worry, I'm wondering about the need, and I'm wondering if, this is a couple people who are building a house and one bigger driveway, and we're going to change the entire code for the town to accommodate that. But I don't know, because I don't know where the needs come from.
No, just back up a little bit. So if I'm understanding, right now, you have a driveway that's X width.
Yeah, you have a driveway.
And then the actual opening to the street is small.
About 2 feet in on each side.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of not very smart.
Isn't that a lot, does that become a lot coverage problem?
Well, and actually with that, and then you'd have smaller houses.
Unless you put pavers, right? Are pavers considered paver driveways? Are they considered pervious or impervious surface?
That all counts as pervious, and actually let me strike that, what I just said about lot covers. All those items are going to be in the right of way, which don't count against lot covers anyway.
So basically this allows you to have an opening the same size as the driveway?
Yes.
That's not my concern. I'm not worried about that. I was worried about the part with the sidewalks. Part D? I didn't get down there yet.
We're not changing that.
Well, it says here, any new construction or replacement of an existing principal structure shall require the installation of sidewalks,
This is just our existing ordinance we gave for example.
Right.
This is a copy of our ordinance as it stands today.
Right, but we don't follow that.
What I'm saying is, there are a lot of...
Yes, we do.
We do? I've waived sidewalks as I've been on this council.
In District 2.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to talk about that to come up with
Yeah, we were
a...
supposed to come up with...
And Joe, you did come up with a...
Yes, there is no ordinance right now that actually waives that.
I know, but we do.
Yeah, I think that we have, in the plan that you put together, you and Jay put together, it's a good one.
Good plan. I just like to
Areas
follow
that really require sidewalks for safety issues for children and things like that,
No, I have that.
Prior to...
I get all that. We have to adopt that plan, and we have to make an amendment
to
to
this.
Section D saying that sidewalks are required in all sections in accordance with plan,
Right.
exhibit, blah, blah, blah.
Because
That's another meeting.
my neighbors, we don't have sidewalks in our area. It's quiet streets, okay? It's not and they've been that way since, I guess, the town put houses in there. And nobody really wants to put a sidewalk that goes to nowhere,
I completely understand that. I recall those meetings.
Right, so that's
So if I would more than happily make a presentation to the planning board for recommendation back to here.
So we're not the only victims of the presentation. Give them one.
Anyone has any questions regarding these three items? And just so you folks understand, we're looking at a lot of different things this year. One is housekeeping items. Someone, they asked me, as far as zoning officer, what questions get asked of me from residents?
Sure.
And these were, shed one is by far the most that people appear not to like to comply with. The second one was the driveway not being straight to the back of the garage. And the third one was this driveway opening that, quite frankly.
Oh, I get it. I appreciate you answering all these questions. Good. Good job.
Jay, should we make, do I have to get a vote for recommendation back to the...
Well, the council, whether they wish to suggest that the attorney draft something in accordance with what's been presented, whether...
Well, I think we just have to give Joe, authorize Joe to bring back, if we agree with these recommendations, bring them back to
Maybe we
planning
should
board.
vote.
You have to take a vote on that?
Well, I don't think that you have to take a vote, but I think what's been pointed out a couple times here tonight is that our ordinances are outdated, and there's a crying need to bring them up to speed. So just sending Joe back to the board is just a small drop in the bucket. We really need to redo almost everything in our ordinances. And we were about to do that some number of years ago, and it just didn't happen. So again, I don't think you have to vote to send Joe back to ask his question, but there's a lot of other things that have to be addressed. Ms. Crippen raised something earlier about the job descriptions, and there's other issues in the book that need to get dealt with as soon as possible. So, however you want to proceed is fine.
We're not going to introduce any ordinance tonight.
No, you're not going to introduce anything tonight, but if you're just going to ask Joe to go back and recommend to them something that you've obviously discussed before, that's up to you.
Well, I mean, the sidewalk issue is something where we could, Joe already put together a plan.
Correct.
You know, we could have the fire department, the police department review it in terms of the areas where we thought sidewalks are necessary in terms of foot traffic and kid traffic and stuff. That's something we can move on pretty far. But how do we, you know, how do you deal with this? I don't think I'm in favor of a 2-foot setback, but I don't know how everybody else feels, so what do we tell Joe?
That's why I suggested.
Well, I don't know what to tell him. I would tell him not to go forward, but I can't do that.
Well, I think you have to come to some kind of consensus of what you'd like to see, and maybe what you'd like to see is the whole ordinance book being readdressed.
I would like to see
Various
that.
issues being addressed so that everybody can look at them kind of in a teamwork fashion.
I like that idea. And I think Joe has 3 good ordinances, potential ordinances here that we should talk about. Because then, once we decide as a council the way we want to go, then it would be appropriate to send that back to the planning board, right? To say
The
this
process
is
you're engaging in now is somewhat informal, as I view it, because
correct.
you'd still have to go and do an ordinance to change the ordinances. But if you're going to start, I mean, there's a bigger job that needs to be done. That's my point here, right?
Well, where would we start that big job?
Well, there's been, and Jake can tell you, I don't know what the status is right now, but there was originally a proposal by Coded Systems for what it would cost to redo the book. Some money was appropriated some years ago. The process got started when Fred Raffetto was the attorney, and then the process stopped, and I don't know where the process is right now.
I didn't see that fund in the budget for this year.
Again, you have to ask.
Is it in there?
No,
There's actually
It's
funds
done.
that were reserved going back.
No, I understand. Was that in the current budget that was approved by everyone but
It
me?
is not in the current budget,
Okay.
but there are funds in the.
So then I guess you can't start until you approve the funds, right?
There are some funds there. What we have requested is an update to that proposal, which at this point is some 5 or 6 years old.
Okay. So I guess we should request an update, right? See what that looks like, and then perhaps budget next year for it.
But we should get maybe one proposal.
Sure. You should get at least 3 bids, right? If we want to do due diligence.
Understand the extent to which, service, what the one call service includes.
Well, I think Coded System would give Mr. Delaney a proposal, and then you can see what all is comfortable.
Because what I understand is they're essentially like rewriting our ordinances for us.
Essentially.
Yeah, I would like to ask a lot of questions.
Well, I think there'd be a lot of voting.
There would be a process.
Maybe we have to
Yeah,
vote
I
on every one
understand
that
that's
we
what I'm
would.
saying. I don't think we should just go to one company because we were dealing
No, you
with
should
6
have-
years ago or
right.
something.
I don't know how many companies are out there.
We gotta look for
Right,
due diligence
exactly.
for the taxpayer.
To understand what we're getting, what they're doing, and how much it's going to cost, I'd like to see that.
If I may, Mayor, if I may recommend at least that item 1 be considered, that be drafted as a new ordinance.
Yeah, I think that's
It
good.
does seem
Yes.
that
That's fine, yeah.
this process of revisiting our ordinances, and Councilman King's credit, we had a laundry list of items in. Councilman King said, well, wait a minute. We have so much work on our ordinance, let's just pick a few that the board felt was most important to bring to the council,
Makes sense.
because we could have been there for a while, thinking about different things that we wanted to see potentially looked at. And the company said, well, we need to revisit our ordinance, because that's outdated.
All right.
There's still reference in our ordinance to peddlers and people with horse and buggy.
Yeah, no.
We definitely need some,
It's to maintain the character of the town, Joe, you know that. So do we have agreement on this waiver? Do we want to move forward on talking about the site waiver?
Site waiver,
Let's do
makes
that.
sense. I think we're all in agreement on that, Joe.
So Gary, do we need to do anything other than agree?
I think you've done it.
Good.
And what about the
That's the one that says you don't have to do so plan.
curbs and driveways, that kind of stuff?
And that gets into sidewalks and everything else, doesn't it?
Sidewalk and everything.
So that's not that big.
So I guess it gets to
I
the
think the
sidewalks.
only positive one, Joe, is the site waiver.
okay.
One out of three, Joe. Not a bad batting average.
With regard to a fee schedule, is that something, Gary, that we should have voted on in the resolution for
Well, I
that?
think if you want to, I think Mr. Collins had brought out and everything, but I think you can come up with some kind of proposed fee schedule, and the council has something to look at. I think our fees are probably in the biggest one.
Well, we did discuss it at the board, and that's where the $600 fee came from.
I'm sure there's other fees that we've discussed.
Okay, Mayor, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Great job.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Discussion items. Horizon selling agent.
Are we doing the old road, the old Ocean Road traffic improvements? So Joe, you're not off the
Joe,
hook
I didn't know Joe. Joe, you have anything to say about that?
No, second item on the agenda was the striping of Old Mill Road, Ocean Road.
Yeah.
I was asked by council to take a look at this intersection and with regard to some issues we have over there in the morning traffic, especially people heading southbound on Old Mill Road, and people making a right on Ocean Road heading southbound as well. Sometimes there's a vehicle want to make a left, you go around them, it gets very crazy. Currently, right now, Old Mill Road is striped, and this stripe you see in Old Mill would essentially be a refreshing that striping. You can barely make it out now, it has also worn out.
I didn't even notice there.
Yeah, it actually is there. On Ocean Road, however, we would add some designated striping to separate the east and westbound traffic, and also add a right turn only lane. Essentially, what we're doing here, we're just taking that right turn only lane and pulling that out of the traffic flow. There'll be a yield sign. There'll be no change in the functioning of the intersection, other than trying to split that traffic so people aren't going around, currently going around, someone trying to make a left, and it gets pretty dangerous at that intersection.
Now, Joe, in terms of, because I live over there, and there's usually at least, I'm sure our traffic records show there's usually at least one good accident over there a year. Now, coming down South Old Mill, right? And then there's usually cars coming north on Old Mill, and it's tough to pull out. Has there been any thought or any discussion about making that a four-way stop? And I'm just bringing it up because it's somewhat difficult sometimes.
Especially at night, because
At night and during busy
the
hours.
northbound Old Mill traffic, that is uphill there just slightly.
Yeah.
Enough so that the headlights are in your eyes and you can't see the blinker, so it just makes it's just one more.
And I don't know if it's possible to do it or even a good idea to do that, but maybe we should consult the police department at some other time, just to Did they have input into this, first of all?
No, they haven't.
Okay, could I request that they do?
This is not changing the flow of traffic right now.
Yeah, I actually think.
No, I think this is good,
I
what
mean,
you
just for
got.
them to have a heads up if we're messing with the road.
But I agree with Chris, is it possible maybe to go a step further? I like what this does.
I just want to add that I like this a lot. I think it's a big improvement. I don't think this should necessarily wait. I mean, we'll check with the chief or whatever.
Yeah, it has to refer to chief regarding actions. I know there's.
But what I'm saying is if it's okay with him, I mean, I think this is a huge improvement.
Right, start with this and maybe
decide,
if we
you know, when
can
to
get
it.
something else. I mean, I yeah.
It's good, right?
It is good.
I like this paint job.
Okay. Can I bring something else? Because the resident actually stopped at my house the other day, wanted to start a petition about this, so I'm glad that, I said, why don't we wait for the petition, because I'm sure the council's going to take it up. There's also, well, first of all, this, is this budgeted for in the current budget?
I have to put my
It is not specifically budgeted, this is a new item.
This is considered striping, right?
This is considered striping, road maintenance.
Now, you don't have to answer this, but I do, you don't have to, I'm just making a statement. I do seem to recall there was striping in the original budget, and there was striping taken out of the current budget. So if the striping is taken out of the current budget, but we're all in agreement that this is an important plan, I'm wondering which Peter we're going to rob to pay this Paul. And I'm not asking you to answer that.
I'll answer.
No, you don't have to, but
But to answer your question, the funds for this are not specifically budgeted. This obviously was not something that was discussed during budget, during our budget preparation season. If this is a priority of the council, we will scrape together the dollars. Our current estimate, I asked Joe just to provide us with a guesstimate, and it's about $3,000 to do the striping that you see here. So it's not a, couple $100.
what's the annual, then you gotta repaint this stuff.
This is a 5-year cycle like on it typically.
Okay, so you're using the good stuff? Or?
Well, we looked at the cheapest option. The cheapest option is the same cost as the epoxy finish. Because
okay.
it takes longer to dry,
Yeah.
it lasts about a year, less with salt plowing.
That's right.
And the company doesn't give a break because their men have to stay there and watch it.
Watch it dry, literally watch it dry.
Watch
Yeah.
paint dry, and it's not something where you can say, well, our guys will watch it because they won't, guarantee their work,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. So, we did ask that question, I have it right there. This is the most economical, cheapest way.
And it's good for about 5 years.
Yes, and cost benefit is the highest.
With salt and plowing.
Yes.
Okay.
With the box.
Can I bring up, the resident who stopped at my house who wanted to start the petition also had a request. We can't deal with it personally because I believe it's in Wall Township, but a little bit further west on Ocean Road, where New Bedford Road, right up, the next block up where New Bedford Road connects to Ocean Road. Currently, when you're coming down New Bedford to connect to Ocean Road, there's a house on the right-hand side, and it's a Wall Township house. And there's a large group of overgrown bushes on the corner, which does impede your sight. You literally have to pull out into Ocean Road. And the person who came to my house was a senior citizen, and she said that it's more, it's difficult for senior citizens because they got to pull out, they got to climb over the steering wheel and whatnot. Is there a way that we can contact? I mean, just to reach out to Wall Township and say, look, is it possible to talk to this homeowner just to trim the bushes, or?
I can reach out to the public works director over there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Why these roads, Lord, there's so many problems today because of the traffic. So many more cars. I grew up in this town, Joe. I drove down Ocean Road probably 1,000,000 times and never had a problem.
Yeah.
Up until recently.
The chief, we had to put a sign on 10th Avenue last week because we have people just come down and they can't get past on Ocean, so they make it quite hard to cut because it's wider, I guess, right, chief?
And people have to understand they have to obey the traffic laws, especially the speed signs and those flashing lights, 25, 25, 25.
Well, I gotta say, the officers have been out. I mean, they up the one day on Ocean Road. I mean,
and I
Patrolman Williams was, it was back and forth, the other day on 71, so our guys are doing a great job. So thank you very much.
They're doing a great job. And the way I help our police force out, if I'm going up Ocean Road, Wall Road, or any road, and I'm doing the speed limit, I look in my rearview mirror, see somebody, boom, I'm right up. I immediately slow down. I hope I haven't done anyone in
I do it on Ocean Road, same thing.
They can do less damage if they're going slower when they hit you.
I do that more than Ocean Road when I'm going to work.
All right, Joe, well, thanks for putting that together.
Maybe Sarah, he doesn't know about these intersections. He goes up the light at Warren.
That's actually a police matter, for on that one.
Are you moving on it?
Mayor, may want to repeat that?
Pardon me? We requested a light at Warren and Old Mill.
Warren Old Mill?
Yeah.
It's in the hands of the county right now. When we hear back, it'll be probably the first.
See what they call review.
Multi-annual review, right?
Yeah.
All right, Joe, we thank you for that.
It's only been there a year or so.
Yeah, hopefully it's a quick review using the Blair Road Old Mill light.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you very much. Good job.
Thanks, Joe.
Nice work.
Do we have to, Jay, do you have any comments on the Verizon lease?
Yes, Mayor. I'll attempt to keep this very short, very sweet. Distributed to the council a summary of our 3 existing cell lease agreements for the antennas that are located on the Old Mill Road elevated water storage tank. We currently have 3 leases. Collectively, they generate a little bit more than $110,000 a year in revenue to the borough. The information I've distributed to you, I've highlighted in yellow. Number 1, the Verizon contract. We refer to it as Verizon. It was initially awarded to New York SMA, Celco, and through various mergers, acquisitions, changes of name, it is now what we know as Verizon and operates the Verizon wireless system. That was initially a 5-year lease with 3 5-year renewal periods. We are now in the last year of the 3rd and final renewal. The lease agreement does provide that at the expiration of this upcoming extension period, that the lease automatically renews on a year-to-year basis. We have been contacted by Verizon in exchange for that year-to-year extension. They would prefer a much longer period. We consulted with the borough attorney and have reviewed this. Such an action would require a new lease agreement. And that's where we are to basically solicit council's input on whether we do a total new lease agreement or we simply let things lay where they are and let that go to a year-to-year renewal. And again, the timeline on this is that this lease is scheduled to expire at the end of the year. We anticipate that in the event we do a new lease agreement, there will be a public bid arrangement, and we had further discussion on that. So that's provided for your information at this stage. I don't know if the council is prepared to answer that threshold question as to whether we simply allow it to renew on an annual basis at the end of this year, or whether we take proactive action and solicit bids for a renewal for a longer period.
Gary, do you have a recommendation on that?
But I believe that it's Verizon's desire to go with a longer situation. So I see no reason not to accommodate them at this point. There's some changes we can make, perhaps to our benefit, and we have to take a look at all that now. We're at the very early stages of this. Mr. Delaney and I have met and discussed it, and we'll move it forward right now.
Okay, thank you.
You know how much the budget for it too, the longer term, right? We'll know exactly how much we're gonna get in 5 years as opposed to guessing.
Well, exactly. Although the current lease would renew on its existing level. And that is a concern, as I think everyone's aware. The cellular market has consolidated over the last few years, and the technology has changed so that at one time there were capacity limitations on the availability from the existing antenna system. That has changed dramatically, I'm sure, in the 20 years that this has been in existence. But we are told that this is still an active site and a desirable site for Verizon, and that's one of the reasons that it is their preference to tie this up to a longer period than the year-to-year range.
Makes sense.
So if there's no objection, then we will proceed on that basis. There will be an opportunity to review the final bid specifications and the information related to that. But our target is that probably during the summer months, we'll finalize this so that we're in a position to have this out on the street for bids in the early fall.
That would be the idea.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Council reports. Mr. Jenkins, we have
Sure, Mayor.
recreation.
Yeah, recreation summer camp's underway. We have the largest summer camp group we've had, 217 people, 217 kids. Attendance has been great. Tomorrow, we have special events every week. Tomorrow, Shoreline Dance Company's coming. They've been coming for the past 3 years, doing all kinds of activities with the kids on dance day. We've had the ice cream man. We've had DJs. We're hoping the fire company will come by and pump the hose real quick for us one day. But every week there's at least one specialty day going on. We're also working on refining even further the soccer program. We have several possible new options that we're hoping to present hopefully by the August meeting for everybody. So we'll be on the lookout for that.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Forbett.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. King.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Stewart.
Nothing at this.
And Mr. O'Brien.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Everybody have a chance to look at the police department report? And you want the revenue. Thank you. Ordinance introduction. We have ordinance 2015-0, capital ordinance authorizing fire department equipment purchase. Let me find it over. 2015-06. Thank you. All right. That's capital ordinance of Borough, Spring Lake Heights, and County Moms authorizing fire department equipment vehicle purchase appropriating sum of $72,500. Need a motion to second introduce?
Make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Now, we have any questions? This would be for purchase of the siren, correct?
Both the siren as well, Mayor, the siren and the fire chief vehicle as outlined in the ordinance and also listed on the agenda under resolutions. There was a donation. This is essentially a shared purchase between the fire company contributing half the cost of the fire chief vehicle and the borough contributing the other half, which was budgeted in our 2015 budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Very good. Good.
I'd like to make an amendment to this to include the location of the fire the firehouse and the removal of the residential areas.
Okay, amended to include the
Include that.
installation at the
Firehouse.
firehouse.
And then remove the other.
Removal of the
Mayor, can I ask a question, please?
Yep.
In terms of this vehicle, I know we've been talking, during the budget process in terms of how we're making decisions for purchasing, so on and so forth. Jay provided us a list with the ages and replacement costs for vehicles. And this vehicle wasn't in the initial discussions. And I'm wondering, how did we determine that this is the vehicle that we need to spend $24,500 on when we have other vehicles that are as old or have more mileage, so on and so forth? What's the standard for purchasing a vehicle? How are we making that decision?
Mayor, would you like me to address that?
Yes.
Well, I'll attempt to answer at least the prefatory part of it, which is there was a presentation that was made, and part of our 2015 budget included an analysis of our vehicle and equipment needs throughout the borough, both in terms of public police department,
works.
which was easily addressed because we have established a policy over the last 3 years anyway, of funding for the replacement of a vehicle.
Correct.
So that sort of falls easily into place that every year we replace a police vehicle. The public works is where the discussion started this year, and as you indicated, we provided a listing and analysis of all of our existing fleet of public works vehicles and equipment, the current ages, and an estimate as to the replacement cost for that. It was the determination, as a result of what I'll call the consensus of the governing body, to not fund those equipment purchases this year. At the same time, there was a discussion regarding the fire company equipment, and again, we sidestepped the big issue of fire company apparatus when we were presented with the immediate need to replace aging and rapidly deteriorating vehicle for the fire chief, and the question about quality of life, I think is the way it was described, as the replacement or removal of the whistles at the 3.
I'm not talking about the whistle.
in the middle.
I'm not talking about the whistle. I'm just asking about how did one vehicle, or how did we determine there was a need for one vehicle and then not a need for other vehicles? I don't understand the process.
If I may characterize it from my seat observing the discussion, and as you were aware, we had a number of budget sessions where these issues were touched on. It was ultimately the consensus of the governing body to move in this direction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. I mean the context, Jay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Chris. Now, Mr. Brobeck wanted to amend those 2 items. We just voted on them.
Mr. Borback wants to amend
I just wanted to
the purpose of the ordinance in section 8 to indicate purchase and installation of emergency notification system and related equipment to be located in the firehouse. Is that what you want?
Yes.
And the removal of the existing antiquated ones.
You don't have to worry about the one that Ocean Grove is rusted out.
I understand, but they should come down.
Yeah, is that
So I'm just,
price?
I don't think I'm really changing the ordinance, I'm just making sure we can remove the old stuff.
Well, I think you want that, if I understood you correctly, you wanted it included. So I think Mr. Delaney is about to make a suggestion.
Sure.
And again, in section 1, under purpose, paragraph A, purchase and installation of emergency notification system and related equipment at the firehouse, as together with removal of existing notification systems on Reeve Avenue and the community center.
Perfect. That's my motion.
So Mr. Borback is making a motion to amend the ordinance as just stated by Mr. Delaney.
So we're going to vote on.
I'll second.
Amendment.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
No.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
That was for the amendment.
That was for the amendment.
That's for the amendment.
You need to
Mayor.
vote on the amended ordinance.
Amended ordinance.
To introduce the
Need a
amendment.
motion and a second for the amended ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
No.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-124, authorizing tax lien redemption. Need a motion and a second, please.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-125, approving the renewal of designated alcohol beverage license. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Can I just ask a question? We do them all at once every year? typically, and we don't have any complaints against, outstanding complaints against any of the establishments? Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
I think we do them all.
Yeah, mostly.
No, I think we typically do, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, they're all good.
But it's listing basically every liquor license in town in this ordinance, just for the public. So,
Any other questions? Roll call.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-126, requesting the Director of Local Government Service approve the amendment to the 2015 municipal budget. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
So this is the amendment I voted no against, correct?
This is
Or is this
No,
a different amendment?
This is for a grant for.
No,
Oh, yes. Grant money? Yes.
Yeah, we're getting money.
Mr. Borback?
This is a good one, yes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-127, authorizing Borough to accept the $24,500 donation from the fire company. And I need a motion and a second.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution R 2015-128, authorizing the amendment of lease between the Borough and the Spring Heights Athletic Association.
Make
Need a
that
motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-130, approving the bills, payment of claims for July 13th on the bills list.
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions?
No questions?
Roll call.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution R 2015-130.
One.
One.
131, I'm sorry. Thank you. Resolution of Borough Council confirming appointment of Mr. Robert Supton to the position of Public Works Assistant Foreman. Need a motion and a second?
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Tinkin?
Yes.
Mr. Borback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this point in the meeting, we reached the public comment section where you can speak on any item. Just step forward, give your name and address. Step forward, John.
John Benjamin, 564 Atlantic Avenue. I just wanted to ask about the Fletcher property. As you know, it's been transformed into a very nice park from the jungle that it had previously been. And the Public Works guys did great work on that. It looks really good. It seems to be like it's almost done, but there's a few things that are still needed. There had been a discussion in the past to get a few picnic tables to go in that front row in there. And also to put down some sort of a parking area, either bluestone or maybe clamshell or something, so that people could park there, and it would make the place a little more inviting. Right now there's a concrete slab that a couple of cars can maybe fit on. There's no place to sit down, and there's no benches or anything to sit down there. People do use it, they walk through it, but it could be so much more. It could be a nice little picnic area, whatever. So I'd like to know if anything's there, any plans to do those two things. Now I know somebody may say, well, we don't have money in the budget for it, but we do have the open space fund. And that certainly could be used for the Fletcher property because it's been, that's what it's for. So does anybody have any idea what's going on with that?
I have to ask Mr. Glady, as far as this Fletcher property goes, have we taken care of that piecemeal or wait for a big final plan?
Actually, and I'm somewhat curious because I know that Kat and John sit together in the back here. Within the last 4 or 5 days, Pat has actually forwarded from the Environmental Commission their sketch or layout as to the parking area and the picnic grove that you have referenced. So that has been an ongoing matter of discussion. We now have the diagrams from the Environmental Commission and we'll be proceeding. And as Mr. Tankman's indicated, we have funds reserved in our open space trust for those planned improvements.
Okay, so you will be moving on that shortly then?
We will, and I just also want to emphasize that one of the priorities in terms of additional work at the, I refer to it as the formerly Fletcher property, is the buffer area to provide some additional vegetative protection for those residences that are immediately adjacent. And we're also waiting for that information from the Environmental Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone else like to speak?
Jack Kirkman, 564 Atlantic Avenue. I did not put him up to that. He came up with that stuff. And we did provide you with a sketch. In 2 weeks, the Environmental Commission wants to come and make a presentation about the landscaping that we want to have done there, because we're in the process of getting some designs drawn up. So that's, yeah, so that would be on for the next one. I actually had a question that for many years we had the seal of Spring Lake Heights hung here on the front of the dais. And so when you walk into this room, there's nothing that has the name of the town on it. Like, are we,
Maybe we're not as clear.
Seal is at this sign.
Okay.
Did you?
Well, no, because there's a nail.
Yeah, we just, I just would assume that's there.
There's a nail in the desk. It's on wood.
Nefarious scheme.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Did you get it?
Yes, Anthony Moscato, yeah. 17 Linden Drive, Jim Hickey, 500 9th Avenue. And I'm a local realtor, and I'm going to be listing their property. And the question is, what is the borough's position with homes on 9th Avenue, Park Avenue, Lake Avenue that are unattended, or should we say unoccupied? 3 of them, one has an old Lincoln, another one has a Lincoln and a Ford SUV. I don't think they're registered. I doubt if they're insured. And another one has a boat. And the one with the boat, which is on 9th and Park, probably qualifies as a zombie house, because I don't think anyone lives in it in years. In many years. Horrible condition. And the other question, I mean, it's really an insurance question. How do insurance companies insure these homes that are unoccupied?
That I don't know, but I think the other question Mr. Macon is.
Yeah, I can help you.
Fabulous. See, I don't need a microphone.
I'm more than familiar with house you're talking about.
I have their names, but I mean.
I'm saying your question was regarding insurance. If you're going to pay for it, you don't need to have insurance on a home. You can have it. That's one. Okay, I do understand these folks have been in court with us. Their usual report.
Can you talk louder, Joe?
Yeah, there's 3 homes that are, I call them the usual suspects in town. When I was code enforcement officer, I dealt with these folks. I know Neil is dealing with these folks. And,
But why isn't anything done?
I complained for 2 years and nothing has been done about it.
It's adjacent to your house, is that one of them?
Yes. It's the fire hazard. It's in horrible condition.
yeah,
Grass
after
is
the
3
meeting,
feet
if you
high.
want, I could fill out exactly the property spoken. I believe I know the property talking about, and I'll give it to our code enforcement officer. He can address that.
I spoke to them already.
Yeah, they gave a copy of an ordinance, and it says any vehicle that is parked for 48 hours, if it's not insured, if it's not inspected, if it's not registered, it's towed away. How come none of them are ever been towed away?
Speak with the code enforcement officer and try and get that addressed for you.
Okay.
Gentlemen, can I have your names, please?
Oh, absolutely. Anthony, middle initial R, Moscato, like the wine, M-O-S-C-A-T-O.
And your name, sir?
James Hickey, Hickey.
And your address?
500 Ninth Avenue. This is the zombie house.
Isn't the one car covered with a blue tarp that's ripped and?
Yeah. There you go,
Yeah,
see?
that's right around the corner from my house. That car's been parked there
It's
for
unoccupied. This house
probably
is-
15 years.
Oh, yeah, right, see? So what happened to the ordinance that said 48 hours?
I don't know.
This is, she's over on 9th and Park, and this one's on 9th and Lake. Teresa Corcoran. She's related to Barbara.
Thank you very much.
When will they be
Thank you,
removed?
Mr. Yates.
This, they want to sell the house and
Mayor, if I may
it's a
address
very
this.
hard sell.
Yeah, but yes.
The specific question, the ordinance that was referenced, I may be mistaken, but I will double check. I don't believe that ordinance applies to vehicles that are parked on public roadways. I don't believe that there's an ordinance that allows the borough to remove vehicles from
driveway.
private property. We have the ability to issue summonses and notices of violation. But again, I'll confirm that with our code enforcement officer and make sure that it gets his immediate attention.
The ordinance said that the car should be in the garage.
Okay.
That's what it said.
I don't dispute that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Take our.
Seeing no hands in the motion, close the public comment.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
If no one has any other questions
Hey,
or comment, yes.
I'm sorry, pardon the interruption. I skipped over and neglected to announce our ordinance that we introduced today, ordinance 2015-06, the capital ordinance.
Yes.
Our public hearing on that will be set for Monday, July 27th.
Public hearing will be July 22nd for ordinance 2015.
27.
27.
Boy, I've got good memory here. 06. Thank you. If no one else has anything, need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.